Hi everybody, welcome to the channel. This is Naman speaking. Thank you so much for clicking on this video, and today's video is going to be about volunteering and how you can more effectively leverage your volunteer experiences to engage with community members and also to develop valuable life skills. So volunteering is an important way to develop life skills at a young age and gain important skills interacting with people who have different backgrounds and different experiences. The problem with volunteering for young people is that it's often mandated and there's a certain number of minimum hours that you have to meet. So it feels like a chore, and oftentimes volunteers don't have direct engagement with community members that they're serving. The key thing to look for when you're volunteering is to find an experience in which you can genuinely engage with the activity and you can genuinely make some small change in the activity that you're doing and genuinely make some change in somebody's life. So this is important because A, you should actually be interested in who you're serving and how you're serving them. B, you gain a lot more out of the experiences that are hands-on and in which you can help people. And C, it's just fun when you're able to do volunteering that's engaging and that actually requires your unique contributions. So I'll start out with telling you a few ways that I've been able to volunteer in the past, and this is not a comprehensive list, but this is some of the things that I've been doing, and that's how that's been able to help me improve my own life and my own skill sets. So one of the things that I've been doing for the past I'd say 5 or 6 months is I've been talking to an elderly man. He's 62 and he has partial paralysis, and I talk to him on the phone once a week for about an hour or 2 hours, and it's been one of the most rewarding and intellectually satisfying endeavors that I've ever done. And so this man has a completely different background than my own. He's had a lot more life challenges than I've had. He's served in the Navy and he's served as a firefighter, and so he's done a lot more with his life than I have. And he's also overcome many more challenges than I have. And so it's somebody who I would never have met or never would have had the opportunity to even talk to without having this volunteer experience. And it directly engages me because without me as a participant in the volunteer activity, the activity wouldn't exist at all. And so that's a good litmus test to figure out if it's a good volunteer experience. If you're a direct member, if you're sitting at a desk and not doing anything and just watching people, well, you're not an effective volunteer. So every week we talk about what he's been watching, what he's been reading. He's incredibly curious and incredibly intellectual. He's just a genius. He loves to read. He loves to share what he's read, and I also like to read, and I also like to share what I read. So we have these deep conversations about anything, about philosophy, about astrophysics, about the other day we were talking about some experiments in quantum physics, and so we were actually matched because of our similar interest. And so we have really important discussions, and we also talk about his family and my family and what I've been up to and what he's been up to and some of the challenges he's had and some of his visits to the VA. And so it's a really valuable form of discussion. So it's really valuable for me because I have the opportunity to develop my skills in talking to somebody who has a different background than my own. It's also a valuable volunteer activity because I'm actually helping somebody who I would have not met before. I'm also gaining skills because not only am I better at talking because of my volunteer activity, but I'm also better at connecting with people who might be struggling with challenges, who might be struggling with loneliness. And I'm also better at being empathetic, at being compassionate and knowing what to say when somebody's sharing really difficult life circumstances. So one of the most important things I've learned is that actually an important part of listening is not just not saying anything, and is just listening, confirming and affirming what they say, and just being available to listen is one of the most valuable ways to contribute to somebody's life. And so if you can do that and have a positive vibe and have a positive energy, you can really improve somebody's experience. So that's one volunteer activity I've done. Another volunteer activity I've done, and I'm just going to keep it at 2, even though I've done more than that, is that I've served on a crisis helpline. And so serving on a crisis helpline is a little bit, is very challenging to say the least. It's completely volunteer based, but there's a lot of training that gets involved, and there's a lot of exams. So they have to make sure that you're really good at talking to people who are in a crisis, because they don't know if you don't know if the person who you're talking to is maybe suicidal while they're on the phone, or if what they've gone through exactly. They might not be telling you all the details of the story, and so you have to really, really be attentive and be really good at being able to handle crisis situations, in being able to affirm somebody's experiences, and being able to be an active listener, and being able to know what to do when you don't know what to do. You have to be put in those circumstances and really, really know what to say. And so that's been one of the most rewarding activities as well, because it's something that directly develops my skills. And so I'm much better at communicating, I'm much better at talking, and because of these things, I've grown. And so another thing about the volunteer activity is that it directly needs me. If it didn't have volunteers, then it wouldn't function. So that's again passing the litmus test that a good volunteer activity needs you to function, or at least values you and values your time and energy. And that's how you know that you're going to grow because of it, because you're being an active member of the community. And again, I have conversations with some wonderful people that I would have never met unless I had the opportunity to volunteer. So let's come down to your goals with volunteering. Your goals with volunteering is ultimately, I can identify 4 goals. First is you want to be able to engage with community members directly with whom you might not be able to engage with otherwise. So if you're teaching children in underprivileged areas of the community, if you're serving elderly people in hospitals, if you're reading books to children in the library, if you're teaching science to kids, if you're talking on the phone to people who are in crisis, if you're texting people who are in crisis, if you're volunteering at a law clinic, whatever it is, you're gaining something by talking to somebody who has a different background than your own, and you're meeting people who you would not have met before. The second goal is that you want to learn new skills. And when you can learn a new skill, you can then use that volunteer experience and use the skills that you gained out of that volunteer experience to later on make a bigger impact on either the same community or on a different community or a different project or a different company, because you gained those skills while doing volunteer experiences and meeting people who are very different from yourself. The third goal is very obvious, and this is to help somebody. So when you can help somebody, you gain a new sense of gratitude for the circumstances that you have, and as well as your human ability to connect with and to help somebody else. And the fourth, and I would argue one of the most important benefits that you're getting out of volunteering, is that you gain mentors. And it's really, really hard to overstate this. But if you examine the most successful people in the world, every single one of them has a mentor at an early stage who was able to guide them and develop and help them develop because they had been through the same thing. And so when you're volunteering, there's often volunteer coordinators, or there's people who you're working under, or people who you can really admire because they're the ones who set up the volunteer opportunity, or they're the ones who are serving those community members. And so when you can really, really help them out with a project, or you can be a valuable resource for them in accomplishing a task, what happens is you're opening up a potential relationship that can help you in the future. That person is not only going to write you a recommendation letter, but is going to thank you a lot for helping them with their project. Is going to be available to answer any of your questions whenever they arise. And so you have somebody who can be a role model just because you were able to volunteer on a project that they found very important. So finally, we're going to get into how you can find volunteer positions. And so one of the really difficult things about volunteering is that it's not easy to find volunteer positions that are incredibly valuable. There's a lot of volunteer positions that are just there so you can accrue hours and not do anything else. So there's a lot of positions where you can sit on a desk, where you can just look at the clock, things that don't actively engage you. And you don't want to do those things because you're not helping anybody and you're just there to gain hours. And so since those positions are not always established volunteer positions, what you need to do is you need to start cold emailing people. You need to find projects, nonprofits. You need to find places that could use your time and energy and intellectual assets. And you can start cold emailing people and ask them if they would like free help. And you could also in your cold email explain how how you think you could contribute to their project. So if you have some skills in like PowerPoint presentations or something like that, or you have some skills in talking to younger kids, or you're a really good tutor or things like that, those are things you should include in cold emails to try to gain a volunteer position and really, really help out with the project. And you might have to do a lot of cold emails. You might have to talk to a lot of people, but ultimately what I can guarantee you is that somebody who's really, really passionate about helping other people and willing to donate their time and energy for free is going to find a way to help a community. And that's one of the most beautiful things of our society, is that if you're driven, if you're sufficiently driven and you're willing to do things for other people, you're going to be rewarded for it. And I want to just end this video with that message in mind, that I know it's going to be difficult to find some way that you can contribute to the community, but I guarantee you, if you're able to find a way to contribute to somebody else's life, you're going to be a better person because of it. Thank you so much for listening. If this video had value to you, please like and subscribe, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye bye.